Hello, everyone. Salim Omar here from the Straight Talk About Small Business Success podcast. I am super excited. We have an amazing guest. He brings a lot of experience, a lot of background knowledge in the entrepreneurial space. His name is Chad Jenkins. Chad, welcome.
Hi, Salim. Thank you very much for having me.
So good to have you. Thank you for making the time for this. Chad is a lifelong entrepreneur and visionary known for reshaping businesses to deliver remarkable returns. With three groundbreaking methods and boundless curiosity, he serves as the catalyst for business growth. Collaborating with leaders across industries, he uncovers hidden opportunities, achieving exponential enterprise value growth. Um, he empowers others through growth collaboration partnerships and the Seed Spark Growth Academy. His new book, Just at a Zero, is a guide to outperforming competitors and achieving exponential growth through collaboration. So, Chad, I'm going to ask you a question that I wasn't planning to ask you, but I'm going to ask you about
Okay.
uncovering hidden opportunities. Do you
Yes.
find hidden opportunities when you're working with a business, and how big are these hidden opportunities? Give us some examples or times when you've seen that.
Yeah. So often they're game changers, and I'll put a little bit of context around it. Uh, Whenever I engage with a business, oftentimes I've been referred to them because they're held back. They want to accomplish a goal, or they're wanting to produce a bigger return for their investment of time, effort, and energy in their business, and they've been unsuccessful at doing so, or they've identified obstacles. So I'm brought in, and just for the way that my background has chiseled me to be able to do so, I look at things in their authentic expression. So any business or any business owner who may be listening, or anyone on the planet, has a certain collection of resources. And in the conventional wisdom of looking at those resources, anybody on this podcast would be able to tell me exactly what they are. But I would always encourage anyone to look just a little bit deeper and to look at the authentic expression of those resources, because it is quite oftentimes you're able to take those resources, not encouraging that business to go make a large investment or to do something that requires a lot more effort. But once you get down to the nitty gritty of what that authentic expression of all the resources they have is, you're able to recombine those to create a much bigger outcome, oftentimes getting beyond their obstacles and enabling them or empowering them to reach or surpass the original goals they had when they were introduced to me. So you asked for specific examples. There are many times I'm engaged with organizations that are delivering their product or service more in a project fashion. So there's a request, an identify of a need, there's a
Mhm.
proposal, there's a proposal and a scoping. That, of course, gets executed. And they begin to deliver their product or service. And at the end, they're done. Well, I would say more and more oftentimes today, we've all become accustomed to this subscription mentality where the thing that we're engaged in continues to give us value. If you're listening today and you're in a project based organization, I would encourage you to do exactly what I just said. Really look at the resources that you have and really study the needs of those that you're serving, and consider that the relationship extends way beyond that of a start and a finish. Just by doing that itself, you begin to surpass your current company's enterprise value, and you're retaining clients longer, you're increasing your profitability, you're likely retaining your staff because there's a lot of forecasting that can become a lot easier than this ebbs and flow of more projects, less projects, and starts and finishes that you're not really in control of. So that is just a proven method that you're seeing more and more now organizations latch on to. But that is one that I've seen be very effective over the last 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, great. And you say business owners should add a zero. Why is that?
Yes. Yeah, so I appreciate you referencing there. Yes, sir. That is one that I've I trained myself to do at a very, very early age, even back in grade school. So I was exposed to a rough order of magnitude of what my father made in a year, and it completely scared me. I do simple math very quickly, and I did the backwards math or reverse math to understand what that math would be by minute, by day, by hour, by
Mm,
week, and of course by month and year.
mm,
And but before I let it completely overwhelm me, I added a zero to it.
mm,
And I let it sit there and marinate a little bit and said, I'm a little bit of an overachiever. I'm known as a 3-1 print. So to succeed and achieve, and for everything to be correct, right, and perfect. So to succeed and achieve, my internal, natural, subconscious wiring would not let me turn that loose. But fundamentally, because I added that zero, every solution that I came up with in my mind to reach that much higher number
mm,
greatly surpassed that original number.
mm. And
So
let's say, so in your you mentioned your dad, and you came across his income. You found out what his income was. Just let's say, for example, discussion purposes, it was 100,000, and
yes,
so adding a zero makes it a
yes,
million,
exactly.
right?
Absolutely
So any
correct.
business owner listening to this, they're making 50,000 a year. It's
Yes,
500,000. If you're making 100,000, it's a million. Two hundred
yes.
thousand, it's 2 million. That's a huge endeavor,
hmm It is. At face
right?
value, it is. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
It's
All right.
amazing what
So
the mind can do.
yeah. So then it's all right. I mean, I want to make a million.
Yes,
It's like impossible. The person, will say to themselves, that's impossible to do. I'm making 100.
unless.
My jump should be 200 or 250. Yeah.
Ah,
Let me strive for what's achievable and not strive for something that I'm setting myself up for failure.
I would argue the opposite, and I'll put that a little bit in context. There's a manager that took over the MGM some time ago, and there were two assets of the MGM that were producing a decent amount of profit. One was a $30 million business unit. The other was a $4 million business unit. The $4 million business unit was a very awesome restaurant. But this particular manager had been exposed to a celebrity chef led or driven restaurant. And at that time, those celebrity chef driven restaurants were typically in the revenue category of 7 to 8 million. So a conventional growth strategy, which is a little bit of what you're alluding to currently, the 100 to 200,000, even though that is double, um, very normal, as we would both probably agree. But if you really looked at it, growing by 20, 30%, or even doubling the profitability there was nowhere close to what the opportunity was. So he did that. And instead of that particular celebrity chef restaurant doing the 7 or 8 million or the conventional 3 to 4 and it went to five, he did 11 million in year one. There was another component that he addressed, and that was the show. The show was doing $30 million. So to apply great growth to that would what take it to 40. Um, he decided not to do that, and he launched a particular one that we're all going to be familiar with, and that particular one did 114 million the first year. It was Cirque du Soleil. So if you apply this new potential type of thinking just at a zero, it requires your brain to work backwards and to say, yeah, at face value, that may feel like it's totally not accomplishable. And there's one key word that I would strongly make sure that everyone applies: unless.
Mm,
Because if you leverage the power of unless after the just out of zero, you begin to identify the things that have to be true to make that a reality. And
mm,
now you have actually turned the obstacles into opportunities, producing an exponentially much better outcome for the amount of effort in put to the
mm,
normal business that you have today.
mm, mm.
I'm
So
not
what's
saying doing
the
it the conventional way is wrong. I'm just saying doing it the conventional way is going to
yeah,
produce a very conventional result, and unconventional thinking
yeah,
has a much higher probability of creating an unconventional result.
yeah. Where do you see the actual power of this simple word unless? What's happening when somebody's asking themselves, I want to get to a million, and I will I won't get to it unless,
Yes, yes.
and then what's happening in that moment?
Yeah, so and I'll give you even a little bit more context because unless seems to clear your brain.
Mm,
It's like, okay, I'm already your brain is already, and when I say your brain, even the limbic part, the emotional part, says there's no way in Hades I'll ever be able to do that unless. And then once you have told yourself no, basically, you've cleared your brain and your mind and your executive function or your your frontal cortex to be able to say, you know what, it actually could be if, and by doing that, you have now started beginning the list of things that, if they are true, the result is absolutely capable of being accomplished. So I have a friend from Israel that's very, from the IDF, one of the smartest people I know on the planet. And I've watched him over the last 4 or 5 years. Every time you engage with him, as I mentioned, very successful, very smart, his initial answer is no. But when the initial answer is no, it clears your mind to figure out exactly what it would take for it to be yes. Instead of
mm,
focusing on the obstacles that keep you exactly where you are, creating those very conventional results, and empowers you to say, you know what, I could actually do that if. So it
mm,
frees, I would say, do things that free your mind up to look bigger into the future and say, really identify the things that would make that true, which will give you the building blocks to making it a reality.
mm.
That's where the foundation of Just Out of Zero came from
Yeah,
a very long time ago.
that's great.
Yes,
Share with us, Chad, a few methods, to create exponential growth.
I appreciate that. Yes. So there's one that really comes to mind, and it is also another one that I honed over many, many years, and it started quite a few years ago. And I've named it "Remove the Film." So film in my world stands for friction, identification, and leverage the market. So how in the world do we find these frictions? And you may be surprised, it's a lot easier than it sounds at face value. Frictions to me are the most easy to find because if you would just use one of our most powerful skills, which is listening, uh, people will tell you complaints in their business very consistently and very often. So
Mm,
the frictions that they're running into in an industry or in the local market, uh, those themselves provide the building blocks to begin to create extraordinary competitive advantages that result in this exponential growth, especially whenever you identify those frictions and you understand exactly what it would take to do that and what it's going to create, and then you add a zero to it, and then go back and figure out the structure that it's going to take to create that size of an outcome. So first, whenever you identify these frictions and you begin to leverage the market, because there's commonality in the frictions that are found across a business unit or an industry, um, resolving those begins to create a competitive advantage, and sometimes it actually creates an industry of one. So you have no competition in an industry
mm,
of one. So your margins get much better. You're not beholden to, oh, in our industry, 35% is as much gross profit as you can get, or
mm,
25%, or 20, or even 10 if you're in the home building industry. And that's just simply not true if you begin to solve for those frictions that are holding everyone back. And a lot of times they're also ignoring them or they're building around them, which is actually increasing their cost of goods
mm,
to deliver the same product or service. You may consider
mm,
embracing that friction and
mm,
turning it into a competitive advantage.
mhm. And so, what that does, knowing what that friction is, what the concerns are, what do the customers want? It
Yes,
enhances probably the service offering, the solution that we are providing,
yes.
and or it may create even an ancillary business that provides that.
I have an example if you'd like that
Sure.
where this has been applied. So many, many years ago, I had found myself in the wireless industry. And I was very fortunate to be growing in that industry quite rapidly under the pretense of make it easy for your clients to do business with you. there was a particular mobile phone that was utilized very heavily in the construction industry. Well, if you think about it, where do people in the construction industry, where are they congregated? Around construction projects, around production builder neighborhoods. So I simply looked at the city, created ice cream truck routes in different quadrants of the city, and began to service them where they were. That it was going exponentially fast. But in my normal fashion, I'm always looking for the friction. And in listening to those clients, there was a very common issue that they were all dealing with, and that was their invoicing was a little out of control. Because if you think about it, you have many, many phones in the field that are using the capabilities of the phone, and they're all variables. Well, rate plans were changing all the time, and the people that were using the phones were home builders or brick masons or landscapers or drywall guys. They were not accountants or they were not trending or data analysis people. So I simply embraced the friction. I began to manage and provide a solution to that friction, and I absolutely leveraged the market. My solution was to really harness the facts. Those resources that I talked about or a little bit earlier, all of my people had to know the rate plans. We were also serving clients with phones. So if I'd simply just looked at the two components together and began to play matchmaker on a consistent basis, I could likely, one, I was going to save the issue or save the client from that friction. And I was going to as well produce an immense amount of savings. So at $5 per phone per month, over a 12-month period, it turned into a $20 million recurring business.
Wow.
Just by looking and seeking out the friction and leveraging the market. If you solve this friction, how large of an impact could it be? And that was a pretty nice return for my effort. Of course, now you mentioned earlier in the conversation, it has a positive impact to your core services. Well, if you think about it, who would you like to buy your next set of 100 phones from for your business? Somebody's going to make sure your bill's right, or the local store down on the corner. So it absolutely improved the normal delivery or distribution of those products and services.
Yeah. You become a category of one because that's your huge competitive advantage.
Yes, sir.
You just stand out, right?
The value proposition of engaging was a little different. Yes, sir. It was awesome.
Yeah. So far we've talked about adding a zero, which I love, and the key thing is I want to get to 1 million. I can get to 1 million unless, and that the clarity that comes from asking and using that word. So add a zero.
Yes,
second is removing the film meaning friction, identifying friction.
Yes, sir.
Leveraging the market.
Leverage the market, correct.
Awesome, great. Talk to us about the next one to create exponential growth.
Yeah, so one that I've been studying on for quite a while, and this will probably ring very true and be very normal. When I say normal, it's going to sound very familiar to those that are in smaller businesses that have large aspirations. You never have enough resources, whether it be talent or capital or reach. You run into obstacles all the time. So doing the same as I have done for very many years, I wanted to find a way to grow and to facilitate growth at a much higher velocity. And so I continued to study it, and I studied the art of collaboration. So studying the art of collaboration, looking at your current resources in their authentic expression, you're able to see how those can combine together for a much bigger outcome. So really, really knowing what you have at your fingertips. I have often found that you have everything that you need already, but we're not looking at it that way. Why? Because the convention is, man, if I had additional credit line, or if I had this COO or something of that nature, you have the ideas that will enable you to exponentially grow, but you're telling yourself you can't get there yet. And I would strongly disagree. If you leverage the art of collaboration by finding others out there who are excellent at what they do and knowing the impact of the best possible person on the planet or organization on the planet help you create that outcome that's going to result in your exponential business growth, you begin to understand what future money is available to you. And then taking it one step further, once you identify how much of an impact this is actually going to make to your business, if you found just the absolute best person to create this next service or whatever that obstacle is for you, once you have future money, you're able to partner on future money. So I would put it in context. Let's say that for whatever reason, I was someone who could help you reach that exponential growth. I am way more interested, and I would dare say most of the folks on listening to the podcast have a very similar mindset. I'm way more interested in getting a much higher margin for my delivery of product or service than I would the current convention of my market. There's not a mechanism to do it other than collaboration.
Mm.
So I'll flip roles. Let's say that you, Salim, have that capability of helping me grow my organization exponentially. And what does exponentially mean? We're going to add a zero to my top line revenue and potentially to my profit. How much more of that additional profit would I be open to sharing with you, who you are very capable of creating the outcome for me?
Mm.
And then how much more motivated would you be to double your return for the amount of effort of delivering your product or service? This, I feel like, is something that is very natural to humans and even more natural in business, but is unconventional in today's business world. But perhaps you were to begin to latch on to these theories and put them in practice, you yourself will also see there's a much more direct path to unconventional growth than what today that we all are exposed to, because we know someone who has come before us and gone further beyond us, and they did it somewhat of a conventional route. And what my charge is to help others see a much more direct path to exponential growth. So those are three items that can be quite helpful.
Where do you see this being applied? Somebody who's helping, a consultant, somebody who can help bring that exponential growth and sharing on the revenue, the profits of that. Kind of like it's an obvious one that there is that sharing. But when it comes to a brick and mortar business or an online business, where have you seen that collaboration come, where people often don't look for it?
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. And we'll just take one example that you just mentioned, the e-commerce business. Well, in e-commerce, you've got a couple key components, right? You certainly have your e-commerce platform, and you likely leverage a WooCommerce or something of that nature. There are many consultants out there that really have a very expertise approach to leveraging the capabilities of WooCommerce. Then you have, as well, in that business category, digital marketing. Digital marketing, of course, is going to increase revenue, and my WooCommerce platform is going to showcase my products. So you may have a marketing firm that's going to take much better photography. Well, either one of those components I've just outlined, or even all of those components in whole, are going to create a bigger outcome. You are the business owner. You know exactly what the profitability is on those products and services today is. And if you think about the last time that you went to your offsite planning and you plan to grow by 20, 15, 20, 30% next year, what if you were to grow by 75 or 100? Well, if you did grow between that 20% and 50%, let's just take some normal numbers. Well, of that additional 30%, what would you be open to sharing to get the right partner? Not to scrape your shekels together and try to go with somebody who would do it for the amount of budget that you had available at the time. You're dealing with current money, not future money. So I see it all the time in those types of organizations. But if you unpack exactly what I just talked through, you can apply that to almost any type of business. There's a product need, there's a service need to creating your outcome. It may be already being utilized in your current conventional business, because you have service providers. Well, what if those service providers were the best on the planet? What kind of outcome would it create? And then ask yourself one more question. How much of that much bigger outcome that I'm not getting today would I be willing to split with whoever is the best person on the planet to do?
So that leads to, I mean, looking at our employees and the way they're compensated,
Yes,
right? Changing the compensation structure, perhaps, where there's a stronger incentive tied to performance, to success. Is that kind of how a business owner should be looking at it?
I think it's a very conventional way to then apply it, right? So let's say the best sales guy that you've ever ran across, was he more interested in how much of the outcome he could have or his salary? And how many of us on this call have hired the guy who could promise the world, but he required a little higher salary than what we wanted to pay? And
Mm-hmm.
and oftentimes we stretched and we paid that. And
Mm,
we kind of second guess ourselves at the very beginning. It's like, well, this guy's as good as he say he is. And my comp plan is structured the way it is. He's going to make a lot more money, but he didn't do that. He didn't take it, and you did stretch, and the outcome was less than favorable.
mm-hmm.
When I'm thinking about things and growing the businesses, especially exponential growth, I want to find the absolute best person to deliver the outcome. And I'm absolutely expecting that particular person, if they are very confident in what they're doing, they would much rather have a higher return for their time. So you're exactly right. It's easy to wrap our brains around it when we think about internal compensation of our team. If we were to paint a big picture of what actually could be, and we're able to give specifically what's in it for them, you
Mm,
would find that it even applies to your internal team members, to a lion's share
mm,
of them. There's
yeah.
some that are not. And Salim, I would argue for the ones that would not get excited about that, I would very much be interested in, are they A's, B's, or C's? I don't expect you're going to see a lot of A's not wanting to participate at a higher level in the outcome.
Mm-hmm. Mm,
Those guys, I mean, they're hustling every day for each and every one of us, right?
mm,
And we want to pay them and give them proper compensation.
mm.
Oftentimes, we're compensating the B's and C's to a level that prevents us from being able to really take care of the A's. So
Right.
yeah,
That's awesome. This is so good. I'm looking at the clock. We are almost at the end.
yes,
Really love your approach, man. It's
hmm
it's really, it's really where we started off with uh, hidden opportunities, right? Every
yes, sir,
business that I've worked with, consulted with, and gotten into, there's hidden opportunities. It's for the business owner. It's tough to see the trees from the forest, and listening to somebody like yourself, is a reminder that there are those opportunities. And this has been so good. It's definitely been a reminder for me here. You know, uh,
yes, sir,
the resources, the opportunities that exist in any business, and to look for them. Um,
yes, sir.
so a couple of questions. One is, how can folks find you? Are you reachable? Do you want people to reach out to you?
Yeah, sure.
So that's one. And then we'll finish off in the last minute or so with another question I have.
Yeah, yeah, sure. So to find me, of course, LinkedIn is an easy way to find me. Also, you would be able to visit chadtjenkins.com/straight, and that would come directly to me. You fill out a little quick contact us form, and one of my folks would set a time and we just have a chat and explore some of these capabilities, apply to your own business, and hopefully empower you to do it yourself. Or I've got folks that can also help create realities as well.
Awesome. Great. Cool. Last question. One piece of advice that has been significant for you, or one piece of wisdom, and I know there's so many and you bring so much knowledge. I'm really asking you a tough question to really pin it down to like this one thing.
Yes. The one thing for me, and it's a culmination of, you mentioned there's so many, that's a true statement, but I am a big efficiency guy. Squashing all of the many things that I've run across, there's one core concept that I never want to forget, and I remind myself absolutely on a daily basis. Better is infinite. So the outcomes that you're getting from the business, the performance that or the value that you're delivering to your clients, the website that's producing X amount of leads, it can always and it will always have the opportunity of being better. What's preventing us from creating that much bigger outcome? is us.
Hmm.
So I very much encourage, keep digging deeper, keep being curious every day that God gives you. Stay curious
Yeah.
and
Y-
always focus on better is infinite.
Yeah, I think I got to bring you in again because to talk about unleashing the curiosity catalyst. And we
Yes,
didn't, go there, but that's been, one of my secrets to success is that
yes, sir.
mindset. So,
Yes,
Chad, I am so grateful. Thank you so much. This was so enjoyable, and for sharing all the wisdom that you did.
yes. Salim, it's been a pleasure. I really appreciate the opportunity to be with you today.
Awesome. You take care.
You as well. Bye bye.
Bye.